Hi everyone, this is a short video to just give you the basics of Excel if you've never used a spreadsheet program like this before. So just starting with some basic terminology, when you open up Excel, you'll see a screen that looks something like this depending on your version. This is a spreadsheet, meaning it is made up of rows and columns and cells within those. So you'll see highlighted in this picture is the very first cell in column A and box 1. You'll see as you do formulas in Excel that we use the columns and the rows to kind of reference different cells. So we could have a cell A1, for example. At the top of the screen, you'll have what's called the ribbon. So there are different tabs: home, insert, draw, etc. And each of those tabs have a ribbon with various different options and buttons and things like that. Finally, worksheets and workbook. So the workbook is sort of the overall file that you're working on in Excel. That's what gets saved when you save your work when you're done. And then worksheets are within the workbook, and those are these little tabs at the bottom. So you'll see in my screenshot here, it says sheet 1. There's a little plus sign next to that so you can add different sheets. So if you're working with a lot of different data sets, you might have multiple different sheets or worksheets within a workbook. The formula bar shows up right underneath the ribbon. This is where you can edit formulas or text or numbers or whatever it is within your spreadsheet. And then the menus are really just these different tabs for the ribbon, but in particular the file menu will open up the menu where you can open a new file or save or whatever you're trying to do there. I'll show you a brief example where we can control some of the formatting. So we'll look at changing the font, the color, wrap text, resizing cells, and then using different data types within Excel. So here's just a sample made-up data set. I have the names of some employees, their ID number, and then their hire date. So for example, the names of the employees are getting cut off here because they're a little bit too long. You can resize a cell by changing either the width of the column or the height of the row. If I wanted to resize this first column, I'm going to put my mouse over the right-hand side of that column name until it turns into this little line with 2 arrows. And then I click and move, and I can make the column as wide or as narrow as I want. So I'll just expand this one so my names are visible. Another example of formatting you might want to do is maybe I want to make the column names bold. So if I highlight my cells, I can go under the font section of the ribbon, and I can change the color. I can make it bold or italic. I could change the font size if I wanted to make it bigger. Everything that you normally would be able to do with text, you can change in this font area. You can also change the background if you wanted to, for example, highlight those cells. That's all within this font section. Here again, I have some text that's being cut off. I could either resize that manually again, or another option is to double click the right-hand side, and that will automatically resize it to fit sort of the longest piece of text. For formatting, in the ribbon under number, you can change the format of different cells. So the default is what's called general, and when cells are formatted as general, Excel will try and kind of guess what type of data you have there. So the alignment here is telling me that it's interpreting these names as text, and it's interpreting these ID numbers as numbers, which is what we would probably want. But if I do want to tell Excel that this specifically is a number, I can highlight those cells and change the formatting from general to number. Now the default for number is to give 2 decimal places, which doesn't really make sense here. So also within this number formatting tab, I can change the number of decimal places, either more or less. In this case, I don't want any decimals. Formatting your cells as a number just guarantees that they'll work properly when we do things like sorting by values or using this in a computation. I also included some hire dates here within that same number section of the ribbon. You'll see this is automatically set this as a date, but if not, you could set your cells to be a date format. And there are also different types of date formats. So you'll see here there's a short date versus a long date. If I change this to long date, it will automatically convert all those dates to the full day of the week, full month, day, and year. Or if I go into more number formats, which is at the bottom of that list, I get this whole format menu, and there's lots of different ways that you can format dates. So you can choose whatever makes the most sense for you and use that option. One last thing about formatting, if you do have a significant amount of text in a cell, you can make the text wrap. So here's an example. So I've typed a sentence in this box. It's obviously running past the end of the column. Now I could resize this column to fit this text, but if I had even more text, that might not be practical. So I'm going to make this just a little bit wider, and then I'm going to change this to wrap text. So this is in the alignment grouping on the home ribbon. And you'll see this option with A, B, and C with an arrow, which is for wrap text. And this will make the text go down over multiple lines. You'll see that this automatically resized the height of that cell or of this row to fit. And so this is an option for including longer form text. If you do want really long text values, especially in this class, if you're writing a long explanation, it might make more sense to do insert text box. Which is under the insert menu. And this, you can position a text box and write whole paragraphs and resize it. And this fits just kind of over all the cells. So it just gives you a floating text box within your Excel spreadsheet. The last topic for this video is saving your files. So of course, if you're creating an Excel file that you want to open again later, you want to be able to save it. So switching back to my file, say I want to save this. You typically will have options to either save this in your OneDrive and have it automatically sync to the cloud, or you could save it locally. So if I go under my file menu, you'll see the typical file options. So I can create a new document, I can open a document that is already on my system, or I can save. So I haven't saved this at all. I'm just going to choose the save option. And I can name it. I can choose a location either within OneDrive or on my local system. I'm just going to call this test file. And if you do choose to save it in OneDrive, click Save. You'll see that the autosave up here turns on. So this will automatically save my changes as I go. You can turn this off if you need to, and you can also force a save using the little save icon at the top. You can always resave your file as a new version or in a different place. And if you also save this on OneDrive, you can share it with other people. So the little share icon is on the right-hand side, and this will let you get a link or send it by email to someone if you wanted someone else to either view your file or edit it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.